Look at that. The stall assist coming in. Ugh. Oh, probably should have kept going up this hill. There we are. Look at that. That's fun. That's good family fun right there. Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and it's been 2 years since I purchased my 2019 Suzuki V Strom 650 as my main motorcycle. Since then, a few bikes have come and gone, but this one has stayed as my top do-it-all, take Alyssa on the back, go long distances, go off-road, kind of do anything sort of bike. And if you watched my 1-year update, which I'll throw the link to below, I was kind of on the fence on whether I would keep this bike or not. I was feeling a little as jonesing a bit for something with maybe a little bit more exciting powertrain, maybe a little bit more power, maybe just something different and new. But I got so far as to listing this bike and considering selling it, talking to a few potential buyers. I even had one guy who was going to come and buy it that night, but then I contracted COVID-19 and was unable to meet with him. But then I decided, you know what? I'm going to keep it. At the sub $10,000 price point, there really wasn't anything else that I could get that would provide everything that this bike does. So instead of selling it, I decided to embrace it, added a few accessories that have enhanced my ownership experience. So today we're going to talk about those, talk about what the last year of ownership has been like, and I guess overall ownership of this bike, and ride on, if you will. Super quick overview for any of you who are not familiar. This 2019 Suzuki V Strom is packing a V-twin 645cc motor, paired up, of course, to the 6-speed sequential manual transmission. It's considered to be an adventure bike, kind of the entry-level adventure bike, but this motor only making about 68 to 70 horsepower and a healthy high 40s amount of torque. It's approachable, but yet still fast enough to have fun, geared nicely, a decent weight with the normal XT touring kit that this bike comes with. It's just over 500 pounds. That's including center stand and these accessory crash bars that Suzuki brings. So it's approachable enough for someone who's fairly new to bikes, but also very fun for anyone who's experienced. Since buying it with about 800 miles and very well maintained for those first 800, I've put on nearly another 6,000. I think we're about 6,400 miles at this point. Let's see. Yep, 6,480. So I've had to do nothing to this bike other than change oil, tighten chain. What else? I've changed the oil, tighten the chain. Sometimes I clean it. As you can see, it's a little dirty right now. I was riding in some pretty heavy rain last time I had the bike out, and I keep this bike fairly cleaned, but I don't worry about keeping it spotless because overall I want to ride it. I want to enjoy it. Maintenance things I do plan on doing soon are a brake fluid flush and change. Add some new brake fluid in there. I have swapped back and forth on the tires. I rocked some more aggressive tires there for a little while. Now I'm back to the stock Battle Axe tires because ultimately I end up riding the bike on the street a lot more than I do off-road. I thought I'd be doing more off-roading with it, and I really don't. But let's get in real quick to a few of the accessories I've added. The first thing I want to point out right here is this Kemioto back bag, if you will, tail bag. This is something that I had sponsored to me by Kemioto, as well as these gloves, which we'll talk about in a minute. But this bag is a nice little alternative to my big tank or tail case that I have when Alyssa rides on the back and she uses it as a backrest, or if I'm doing anything that I need a lot of space, I use that big one. It's lockable. This, though, is nice because it's much lighter weight. It's still waterproof. This zipper right here, maybe you can see better in the sunlight, completely zips waterproof, and I should be able to withstand rain, and I can hold quite a bit. If you see right now, it is full of my camera bag, so it's filled all the way up to the brim, and I've got my entire GoPro filming gear in here and everything. But if you take that out, then you can see it's got a little divider, so you can keep things from sliding around quite so much. Overall, it's kind of just a big open section, and this is nice because there are times when I just want to toss things in the back, but I don't want that big heavy case that rattles around, and I don't want to affect any of the aerodynamics or anything. I just want something lightweight and simple, and this universal bag from Kemioto seems to do the trick. Not only that, but it's got some netting on the top, so if I wanted to store something even larger, say a helmet, for example, and take it with me, if I wanted someone to be able to, use the helmet when I get there. And kind of clip these on, and I'm not going to do the whole thing right now, but it would then function as a very large, screw it, I'll put all of them on. Let me take off their gloves and put this whole thing on. They would probably want me to do that to demonstrate all the product's features. Then look at that. It's got a little stretchy, elasticy sort of thing. I could easily put a helmet right on there. And you might think that's kind of silly, but that is useful because the Suzuki's factory side cases will not fit most full-face helmets. In fact, I don't have any full-face helmets that have fit in there. So to be able to slap that on there is pretty useful. And then, of course, when you don't want it flailing in the wind, you simply latch those, put it away. There's also some straps for wearing it as a backpack. I could see how some people would want to be able to do that. You'd want to be able to take it right off your bike and carry it with this case here. Maybe just do a little like doop, 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 like so. And then it's off. You could use it as a backpack or carrying case or something like that. I will admit, and sorry Kemioto, gotta be honest in these reviews, I'm not a big fan of the straps that they use for attaching to the bike. I prefer an elastic solution for universal cases like this. It's not a case that's fit specifically for the V Strom, so I guess you gotta use these kind of straps that you fit and just tighten down. And obviously it works. It's not coming off my bike by any means, but it's not as easy to affix, and it doesn't feel as confident as an elastic solution like I've used before with pretty much bungee cords to attach. So that's something to consider. Quick side note, I think I realized I may have been mounting this bag improperly when I had it on the V Strom. I was doing sort of a thread through across, because that's how I've used previous bags, and there aren't any instructions for this one. But they do send you 4 of these that have kind of hooks at the end. They're hook straps. And when trying it on our Ninja 250, I realized maybe that's the way that they want you to strap it on. So there are 4 of those, and maybe the other 2 straps are kind of supposed to be more of the backpack straps. I don't know. Either way, they send you like 6 different straps you can use, and I think these are going to work well, probably better. You could probably do a sort of a tie mechanism, like loop this through this bar and then bring it back through this hole and then tighten it down. That's probably the way I'll do it in the future. It is sitting on the back of the Ninja 250, so you can see how it works on 2 different bikes. And I also didn't point out earlier that there's a little cargo net up top. So if you want to keep your bike documents in there, or a cell phone or wallet, and you can see I've got some full file folder in here that fits nicely. Still very solid, and you'll see as we ride today that nothing is going anywhere. So I've been pretty happy with this bag from Kemioto, and it's pretty reasonably priced. So I'll throw the link in the description to that. That's something that I've been rocking on here, and I'm also going to try it on my Ninja 250. It doesn't work on my new Benelli 135, unfortunately. Maybe I'll have to get a different bag from them for that. Then I'm also rocking these gloves from them. These are nice as well because they're a newer version. I don't know if any of you watched my old videos, but I had a similar pair of gloves that I had gotten from my buddy John, and the Velcro was totally shot on them. So I needed a new pair. Kemioto hooked me up. These have hard elements where your fingers go with still some venting, and on your knuckles. They're fairly lightweight, and they're not very expensive either. So I've been happy running with these for the last month or so on all of my bikes. So if you need a nice, simple pair of gloves, hit them up. Easy to buy on Amazon. Other accessories I have since added to the V Strom. This is a Givi or GV, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, windshield, and this was not sponsored. I paid for this myself. It was an airfoil windshield. You can see I took that sticker off, and now I need to put some Goo Gone on there or something to get it gone. But this has not eliminated the buffeting issues for me, but it's reduced them greatly. And I gotta say, it's not that different than having the airfoil on top of the stock windshield that I used to have. But I wanted to try something different, and one of the commenters recommended this. What I do like is it is easier to change the height of it. You can go from all the way down here to way up like that if you wanted, and then have a ton of wind protection. I'm sure I'm going to appreciate that in the winter. And technically, if you wanted, you could take it right off and run like that. It's kind of a sporty look. I mean, yeah, you've got those 2 black elements in there kind of being an eyesore, but it allow a little bit more wind and a little bit sportier appearance. In fact, for a little while there, I was running with no windshield. It kind of looked cool. There's a little bit of a motard look, but these brackets had to stay on, so it looked a little silly. It looked like the bike had little horns. If I have any photos, I'll put them up here. So I got that, and then the most exciting accessory on the bike that I've gotten is this Delcovic exhaust. This is the longest, I can't remember if it's a 14 or 18 inch can model, but it goes all the way up to the motor. I installed it myself. It really wasn't that difficult. Took a little bit of time, but not too bad. Still has the O2 sensor on there. The only thing I had to change is when I bought this bike from the previous owner, it had a bash plate underneath it, a steel skid plate, and the headers of the exhaust did not fit with that steel skid plate, so I did have to remove it. But it works with the factory center stand, which is important for a lot of people. No modifications necessary there. Let me pop my side case off so you can really see how it looks. Whoops, wrong one. There we go. Look at that. A little dirty, but it is cool and it sounds excellent. It does have an optional baffle that you can put in. I have the baffle out right now, and I'll say without the baffle, it is loud. There's no other way to say it. It's a loud exhaust. I could see a lot of V Strom owners not being a big fan of that, but I went with the carbon fiber because it looks better with the bike, I think, than the titanium, and it's supposed to give a little bit more of a rumbly sound, and it does provide that. So let's start it up right now. Like I said, no baffle, and I'll show you how it sounds. Admittedly, I usually run with the baffle. Every now and then when I want to be a hoon, I take the baffle out, but we've got it out right now. I think it's going to sound really good for you. I don't know how well it'll come up on the mic, but it is loud. And you'll hear it as we're riding around as well, that you can always hear the exhaust. It's not droney though, I like that. And I'll talk a bit more about the exhaust when we're on the road. But if you want it for just an exhaust that sounds better, if you want to be able to hear your bike's exhaust rather than just hearing injectors the whole time, I highly recommend this exhaust and just ride with it with the baffle in, because it still sounds good with the baffle in there. It just doesn't sound as obnoxious and mean, which I think for a lot of people is quite okay. Also, one of the best price. That thing was only like $290 shipped or something like that. I did not get it sponsored. I bought it with my own good money because I wanted more excitement to this motor. This is a fun engine, and I wanted to hear it. I wanted to experience the bike more in a toy-like way, and the Delcovic exhaust has really helped with that. The last accessory that I have to mention is not on the bike at all. Well, it actually is a little bit because of right here, this tether, but it's my Helite airbag vest. For those of you who don't know, I got in a small accident with my Honda Grom, wrecked the bike, and the main thing is the person who pulled out in front of me said he couldn't see me. He was in the left turn lane, didn't even see me coming. So I rock this vest. Yes, it's bright highlighter green, but I appreciate that, and most importantly, it has a big old CO2 cartridge in it, so that if I were to get flown off my bike like I did on the Grom, I would land very peacefully onto the ground, I hope, and my head and neck would stay secure and safe in the vest. And it's so easy to just clip it on, and then when I get on the bike, I just clip in. It's kind of like putting your seatbelt on in your car. It's really not a big deal. I like having it. So that's most of the static stuff on the V Strom that I've added in the last year. Let's get riding. We'll talk a little bit more about the bike, about things I want to do to it this year. Of course, listen to that exhaust a little bit more. I also like having this shallower tank bag because it's easier to swing my leg over it. It's kind of hard to do that with the big case. Away we go. Listen to that. It's just so nice to be able to hear the engine and have some character to your bike. There's a really small whistle that I noticed. I don't know if the mics will pick it up, but the spot where the screw goes for the baffle in the Delcovic exhaust, there's a little hole there when the baffle's not in, and I'm sure I could find a little plug to plug it up from the hardware store or something, but I don't really mind the little whistle sound. This windshield is just high enough where me at 5'10", 32-inch inseam, I can sit and at lower speeds like this not even have my shield down. The wind's going right over. If I were to get up just that far, then the wind's going in my eyes, but it just barely clears me on this low setting. And the cool thing is you could raise it up just a little bit if you were a little bit taller and still have that be the case. Oh yeah. It is interesting what just a little bit of extra noise can do to something that is a toy like this. Nice stop. I wouldn't want my daily driver to be particularly loud, and admittedly, if I were commuting on this bike, I'm sure the baffle would stay in there all the time, but considering I don't commute on it, I like to be able to make some noise. So 2 years with the Suzuki V Strom 650. It's been a maintenance-free bike. That's exactly what I wanted. I shouldn't say maintenance-free. It's been a trouble-free bike. Never do I come out looking forward to riding and something like the battery's dead, or it won't start, or I've got a check engine light or anything like that. The reason I settled on the V Strom 650 is I wanted a bike that could do some mild off-roading when needed, was fun to ride, was a decent power level. I wanted ABS. That was a big thing for me. I probably would have held on to my Ninja 650 a little bit longer if it were an ABS model. I also wanted something that Alyssa could go on the back on regularly. I have my little Benelli TNT 135, which we'll be seeing in a video here soon. I also have a Ninja 250. I've had a CTX 700 recently, so I've had other bikes, but I wanted something that Alyssa could have a nice backrest. We could do a few hours of riding if need be, and we have done. And she's comfortable the whole time. I'm comfortable the whole time. It's just a good place to be. The upright seating position makes for comfortable, longer rides. I know a lot of people swap out the seat for something more comfortable. For me, it's not a huge deal, honestly. I've never been too uncomfortable on the seat. I could see maybe with someone a little more sensitive butt wanting more. But one thing I love doing with the V Strom is just hopping on and exploring. I'll shoot down roads that are out in the country and I'll just be cruising. I'll see a dirt road that looks kind of fun or cool and I'm going. It's just a turn and go. Something I would not have been able to do on my Ninja. But by switching back to the OE tires, and once these wear out, I'll probably do some sort of sport touring tire. It's quieter on the road, gets a little bit better fuel economy, and feels a little more confident on the side of the tire. I feel like I can really push it. It fits my experience levels. The bike's given me very little to complain about either. Anything that I would want from another bike is more of a want rather than need. It's fairly spoiled. For example, my buddy John, whom I ride with fairly regularly, purchased a KTM 1290 Super Adventure, and the suspension on it, he's had two of them now, this older one and a brand new one that I got. On both of them, the suspension is so good that I didn't realize how much better it could be on a motorcycle. I mean, the suspension on the Strom is not bad, but I've kind of just taken it like, oh, this is decent adventuring suspension. No, it's fairly basic. It's comfortable, but not good, I will say. It's just passable. Part of that is because the fronts are unadjustable and the rear is rebound adjustable only, I believe. There may be the preload. I don't think there's any sort of compression adjustment, so it's a fairly basic suspension. And after riding a while with Alyssa on the back, especially after having ridden John's bike, I'm like, I could see the benefit of having a more robust suspension on this bike. And then the other thing is, like I talked about in my first year update, it's just power. This has more than enough to have fun, but ultimately, if you're having a motorcycle just for having fun, why not optimize that fun a little bit more? But regarding the engine character, I've been okay with it after this exhaust. This exhaust adds enough excitement and enough fun sound to the bike that I don't find myself wanting for a more characteristic motor. I will say I've now experienced Yamaha's MT-07 motor, that cross-plane crank, And it's cool. It has a nice grunt to it, a nice sound. Love the torque. But I didn't leave it thinking, oh man, I gotta have this. If anything, this motor is just it's a little refined, it's a little smooth, and it's not too exciting up at the higher revs, but most people want more of that low-end grunt with the V Strom anyway. So that's why they go for this sort of bike. You get more high-end excitement out of something like an SV650. Fuel economy has been very good on this bike over the last, where are we at here? The last 1,500 miles roughly. I've averaged 48.4 miles per gallon. And with the 650, you get to run regular gas. And don't at me and say, oh, you should be running premium in that. Nope. Nope, the engine's tuned for 87. Running premium is going to give you no benefits. The only benefit you could maybe argue at me is sometimes the premium fuels have more detergents, but other than that, no, the bike's going to run just fine on 87. So it's nice that the running costs are so low and simple on a bike like this. Decent fuel economy, cheap gas, oil changes are spread out. I think it's every 3,000 miles, 3,000 or 5,000 miles. I essentially do it annually because I don't usually put more than that on the bike. These OE tires are clearly still capable of some mild off-roading, some adventuring, if you will. Now, it's important to keep in mind, this is not where the V Strom excels. It's a heavy bike. If I were to drop it in here, it'd be not fun picking it up. Balancing it, getting it over sticks or logs or anything is going to be more work. But to have the option to do this is something that is pretty cool on a bike that is also so good at being on the road, is also so good at putting on big miles on. And the better you get at biking, the better you'll be at piloting a larger machine like this through tight trails. Ooh, got a little washout there. Nice low gearing and grunty motor, obviously very helpful for this type of situation. And remember, this is just with the stock tires. This is essentially no off-road modifications. And for me and my usage, that's what I like about this bike is, yeah, I don't primarily ride this sort of stuff. My goal isn't to be doing it fast or setting any lap times or anything. I just like that if there's a cool looking trail off the beaten path, I can go take that. I can take the road less traveled and kind of just experience what there is. Usually it's just nothing. Usually it's a trail to something that doesn't matter, but with a bike like this, I can do it and have some confidence in it and not feel bad about it. I think that's pretty cool. The engine is geared so well you can practically idle it, tractor it up, these sort of things, if you will. I think we need to get back that way, don't we? Oh, maybe not. This is like a round track. A little sandy. Look at that. The stall assist coming in. Ooh. Oh, probably should have kept going up this hill. There we are. Look at that. That's fun. That's good family fun right there. Don't think I would have been able to do that so easily in my first year of V Strom ownership, but coming up into year 3, yeah, this bike's a beast. And then you get back out onto an open area, You open up that V-twin, you listen to that Delcovic exhaust, you get out onto the main road, and away you go. So anything that I plan on changing with the V Strom for this next year of ownership? Well, I'd like to swap out this universal tank bag for a model specific tank bag. I'd like to get something with a ring that goes over the fuel cap and I could pop on and off like that. And I want it to be a little bit more condensed. This bike feels better to ride without a tank bag. It's got a nice naked feel to the tank and it looks and feels crisper. So I'd probably like to put that on there and just make it feel that much better to ride and a little bit more sporty. Other than that though, this thing is pretty well set up for me. And I can say that going into year 3 of ownership, I'm more excited about the bike than I was going into year 2. It's a little bit more of an acceptance, a little bit more of, look at that, a little bit more of me just being like, yeah, you know what, this is all the bike I need right now. I've got the little bike for fun, more zippy, single riding sort of things. I can always cycle through various bikes on rental services like Twisted Road. But for someone who doesn't ride all the time, I mean, I'm lucky if I get to ride once a week, this is an awesome bike for being able to do the most possible under $10,000 and have the most fun doing it. So now that we've done a little bit of dirt riding, let's go out onto the streets, do a little bit of higher speed stuff, and wrap this up. This higher speed riding is a good opportunity to talk about the exhaust some more too. Get through this light. Ooh, listen to them pegs scrape. I should say this bike has an inch lower pegs from the previous owner. He put those on. Oh, I love hearing that. So the Delcovic exhaust, I think it sounds top tier at lower speeds and lower RPMs. I love the idle. I love the right off throttle sound. I will say with this V-twin motor, and I attribute it more to the engine than I do to the exhaust, but just pointing out from an overall sound standpoint, I think it sounds better below about 6,000 RPM, and I'll kind of show you here. So we're down about 3 grand. We're gonna take off in 4th gear. Nice rumble. And once you get above 6, it sounds just very linear. It doesn't have a lot of character and grumble. It just sort of sounds like it's yelling. Like, ah! Battery died on my GoPro, so thankfully I had my camera bag in the Kemioto in back, and I was able to swap that out. Let's continue on with the spirited riding. Anyway, exhaust note. Let's come out of this roundabout. And I'm gonna make sure we've got good clearance up here. Downshifting. From the higher revs, it kind of just sounds like a yell. It's not the most pleasant sound, I think, but fortunately a lot of V Strom riding is at lower revs anyway. And it still sounds cool. I still think it sounds better than stock. But where it really sounds good is down grumbly low like that. Right there. Rawr. Unfortunately, the Strom makes peak torque at 6,500 RPM. So yeah, your peak horsepower is about 8 grand or so, but you don't really need to get it up there in order to have enough squeeze to get you going. I love that. I've had this on for a few months now. I still think it sounds excellent. And there we are, 2 years on the V Strom 650. And I am happy. I got very little to complain about with this bike. Someday, yes, I'll be on something much bigger and crazier and more comfortable, or I'll be done riding altogether. Who knows? But for now, Strom does a good job. I posted on the 1-year update, admittedly last minute, but I posted a pinned comment to see if anyone has any questions. Let's actually just breeze through the comment section real fast on that video and see if there's anything I can address right away. Phil Since 59 mentions he put on Dunlop Trail Max missions, and they're steady and stable at 100 plus, as well as exceeding any capabilities he will ever have in the dirt. That's probably about how I feel with these. These he'll do 100 plus, no problem, the stock tire. Dave Laubster mentions he uses soft luggage, as he only tours once a year. Good to know. A lot of people mention how they've downsized from bikes to the Strom and have been very happy. And I agree, this thing is just small enough that I can feel fun with it and float it through town and through tighter, twisty roads. Drew Morg mentioned a tune and exhaust would do this bike really well. That's true. I could look into getting a tune, maybe some sort of power commander or something on here, and I bet that would liven it up. Maybe that's something I should do for year 3. Let me know in the comments if you think a tune would be good. Roni mentions, have you looked into Moto's GPS 50/50 tires for the Strom? I don't think I'll go 50/50. I ride this thing way too much on road to justify that. I think if I were going to do more dirt riding, if I lived in that type of environment, I would be getting a dual sport or pretty much dirt bike. Ooh, now see, this is interesting to me. 9 days ago, someone mentioned, upgraded my suspension to some V Strom specific kit from Owens, front springs with preload and back shock. I can climb curbs now and barely feel them, and the bike is more stable at high speeds. Have a 19/650 also. I may have to consider that too. Honestly, the problem is if you start putting a few $1,000s in suspension and tuning onto this bike, you could just go out and buy the $12,000 bike. So you got to keep that in mind of keeping the Strom good at what it is. But I'll be lying if a suspension isn't tempting. All right, well, there it is. The 19 V Strom 650 after 2 years of ownership. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the Strom or any of our other bikes, check the links in the description. I'll throw up our playlist there. Shout out to Kemioto for the case and the gloves. Shout out to Delkovic and Givi for building good products they've put on the bike. And Suzuki for making a good bike. And to Helite Moto for the excellent airbag vest that I wear all the time. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.